It was New Year's 2019. My family was planning on going out with my aunt's new boyfriend's family. I didn't really know any of them, but I usually hate loud stuff like New Year's. It kind of annoys me. So I decided to stay home and chill instead, because I was tired anyways. It was around 9 or 10 p.m. when they finally left, and I had the whole house to myself. We have kind of a big house because I live with 4 other siblings. It wasn't lonely though. I very much cherished any alone time I got, so I went upstairs and started watching Friends back when it was still on Netflix. I watched a few episodes before getting bored, making a snack, and heading back to my room downstairs. I watched YouTube on my phone for a bit before I started hearing something. My house has 2 floors, and from downstairs, even the slightest of footsteps sound very, very loud. It's even horribly loud when you're just trying to be quiet, probably because of the old wood. This house was very old. I tried to ignore the creaking, using the old excuse that it's just the house settling. That's until it kept going. It just kept on happening again and again. A faint creak, like footsteps of someone trying to be quiet. Of course this unnerved me, so I decided the best thing to do was face whatever it was. Kinda stupid in hindsight, if it had been a robber. I took my metal baseball bat that I always keep in my room and slowly made my way upstairs. I hadn't heard a creak for a while, so I was hoping it was nothing. Once I got upstairs, it seemed fine, till I noticed something. The fucking TV was on and playing the Friends episode that I had left off on. This scared the fuck out of me, being that I would never have left the TV on. I had 100% faith that it was turned off. But here it was, fully on for no reason. I ran to the corner of the room so that nothing could sneak up behind me and held my baseball bat close. This was terrifying for me, but I was still doubting myself. That's until I heard the creaking again from downstairs. I was so done. It was around midnight at this point, so the fireworks going off were helping my situation. I decided to dial the police while fearing the worst. I kept the operator on the phone while checking my downstairs, and it was nothing. There wasn't anything at all downstairs or upstairs. The house was completely empty. I apologized to the operator and hung up. While on edge for the rest of the night, there wasn't any other incidents, and that's how I ended up calling the cops on a ghost. Thanks for reading. So, I'll start by saying that this will probably be a long post. For some background information, my family is from North Carolina. My papa, grandfather, was born and raised in Royal, Western North Carolina, and my mama, grandmother, was from the Middle Eastern end of the state. My mama is Native American, with her family living in the same area as far back as the 1890s. Being a Christian didn't stop her trust in the beliefs of her people. She was born with a veil over her eyes, which is basically where the part of the amniotic sac detaches at some point and attached to the baby. Whether her family, this was taken as a sign of the child being sensitive to paranormal activities, and growing up it proved true for her. Fast forward to my birth, I was born the same way. My mama was both pleased and worried when she saw. Almost everyone on my mother's side of the family fully believes in the existence of ghosts and the like, all having their own experiences over the years. My first experience came at around 7 years old. I remember sitting in my mama's living room watching television with her and suddenly smelled something burning. I panicked, thinking I'd left the gas stove on, having just roasted myself a marshmallow on it, and that it caught something on fire. Before I could say anything to my mama, she looked over at the door and said, "Come on in, E. Please note I'm not using names for reasons. I was obviously confused, and I asked her what she meant. She went to explain that my papa's sister had died in a house fire in Korea years ago. She had apparently gotten 2 of her children out and went back in to get the youngest and didn't make it. When they found her body, she was something like 5 steps away from her front door. My mama explained it wasn't long after that they began smelling burning rags in the house. It typically lasts just a few seconds and disappears again. My mama believes she just comes to check in. I smelled that same smell many times over the years growing up in our home. I would look and look for the source of the smell and never found one. In the years since I've moved into my own apartment home, I've smelled the same smell. It lasts for just a few seconds and then disappears. I spent most of my childhood in the eastern part of the state with my grandparents. But as for my mom and her siblings grew up in WNC, most still lived there, and all of my papa's side of the family was there too, so trips to WNC were frequent. In the fall, my mama would go up and pick apples by the trailer full and take them back and sell them. My second encounter occurred when I was in middle school. It was fall. I remember because as I bolted back out of the house and tried to get to my mama, I tripped over the trailer holding her apples and ended up eating dirt. Then I had to hobble around with a busted shin for a few days. Anyways, I went inside the house to get my mama's drink for her, and as I walked past the hallway that led to the bedrooms, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. When I looked, I was frozen for a minute. At the end of the hallway next to my grandparents' bedroom door was a woman I'd never seen before. I remember she had long, loose dark hair and wore a blue pantsuit. Think of a really old woman going to church. She looked at me and smiled slightly. As she turned her body to fully face me, my legs remembered they could move, and I took off. I explained it to Mama what I saw, and my stepdad immediately moved to go inside because he thought someone had broken in through the back door. Something that wasn't really common in our area, but not unheard of. My mama quickly waved him off and took me inside. Hidden in a photo album in her closet, she pulled out an old black and white photo of a woman standing on a porch and asked if it was her that I saw. It was, and this was the picture I'd never seen before, and apparently one of the only 2 she had of her mother. My mama sat me down in the living room and explained it all to me. The outfit I saw her in was the one she was buried in, and while she normally kept her hair up in a tight knot in order to keep it out of her face while she picked cotton or cooked or just whatever she was doing, they decided to leave it down for her funeral. This was all shocking to me. My mama didn't talk much about her mom, as she died when my mama was very young, resulting in her dropping out of school to take care of all of her younger brothers and sisters, and then eventually all of her half-brothers and sisters. My mama is the oldest of 18 children. The final encounter I'll write about is one directly related to the other 2. About 3.5 to 4 months after I saw the woman in the hallway, I got sick. Not just a little sick, but pretty bad off. This was in the 90s still, and while my mama believes in doctors, she also believes in the medicine of nature. It's not something I'd ever use for my children now, but I also know that it works. So if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, I've at least got some medicine. I was given the medicine and wrapped in blankets. My fever peaked at around 103, and I spent most of the day huddling in my mama's lap until my mom decided that I needed just to go to bed and give my mama some space in case I passed the illness to her. My mama reluctantly agreed and carried me to bed. I'm not sure how long after I went to bed that this happened. I had fallen asleep at some point, but I woke up and it was pitch black in my room. I suddenly smelled burning rags and then felt the blankets being taken off of me. The cool air felt great against my skin, and then whoever it was started humming. It was a song that my mama often hummed to me when I was small, or in this case sick. They started rubbing my back and continued to hum. I mumbled and asked my mama to bring me some water, and the answer I got back was, "She's coming, baby." I turned to look, and sitting on the bed was not one person but two. My mama's mom and the other woman I recognized as my papa's sister, whose picture my mama had pointed out on the wall after she told me the story of her death. I want to say I wasn't scared, but that absolutely wouldn't be true. I was terrified. But about that time, my bedroom door opened, and my ma came in with water and medicine. When I looked back at the bed, both women were gone. I told my mama what happened and told her that they knew she was coming, and she simply responds, "Figures can never just mind their own business." I later found out that all my mama's children had similar experiences as children when they are sick. And even now as an adult, if I'm really sick or something of that nature, she comes to visit and hums the song while rubbing my back. I know these aren't really scary, but I definitely have my fair share of terrifying experience with the supernatural. But I figured that it would be nice for some people to see that they don't always mean you harm. And it's funny because even as I'm writing this out, E came and passed through the house, causing my 7-year-old to run into the living room screaming about something somewhere being on fire. Last night around 2 a.m., I woke up to my 1-year-old crying out, "Mama!" He sounded scared, so I got up and brought him to the bed between me and my husband. My husband was asleep at his edge of the bed with his back turned towards us, and our son for about an hour was whining and constantly moving as he couldn't seem to get comfortable. I soon turned around too, as my son kept kicking my stomach. At this point, I'm wide awake, and I'm just waiting for my 2-month-old to wake up for a feeding. I'm laying there, and out of nowhere, I feel 4 caresses on my head, and I turn right after the 4th one, as I thought my son was trying to get my attention. As I turn over, my son is not even near me and is right over by my husband. I freak out and wake up my husband right away and explain what happened to him. For some context, we just moved into my childhood home at the beginning of this year, and I've always experienced odd paranormal experiences growing up, but I haven't started experiencing them until I moved back and with my children. Since then, odd things have been happening, and I'm not sure if whatever is here is drawn to kids. I'm female 39, with a young daughter 12, and the other day my daughter had 2 friends over. These girls remind me of me and my old friends Cassandra and Emily. So it was late at night and I was on my bed drifting to sleep. I heard my daughter and her friends yell, "What the fuck is going on?" I went and all the lights were off and the girls looked terrified. I asked them what was wrong and my daughter had said, "Mom, we saw the man." I was shocked to hear that because I had said that when I was a kid. I tried to tell them ghosts weren't real and no man was here other than her father. I went back to bed, then my daughter ran in. She was about to cry and said, "Mom, there's a man in my room." Her room was my room as a kid because I got the house passed down to me when I was younger. I believe there was a man who stood in my closet, so I believed the words she said and let them have my room for the night, and I slept in my daughter's room. I fell asleep way too quickly. It was funny. I was kind of wine drunk. To this day, I still remember about the same things happening to me as a little girl. What do I do?